Hello and welcome back to the Littlest PetCast. I'm your host James, and today we are going over the episode Paint a Picture, It Lasts Longer. And yes, I know it's been a while. Man, it's not like this whole year really hasn't been easy on, well, anyone. And when you're playing the game, on a harder difficulty, than a lot of people, it can get troublesome. But yeah, I'm back. I do want to finish this. I am gonna try to wrap this up soon-ish, but I cannot make any guarantees, mainly because stuff happens. But let's get into the episode. It's been a while. I actually took these notes like last month, but things happened, so I ended up rewatching this episode just to get a refresher on it, even though I have my notes. But it's been a while. So, all right, we begin with Minka painting, and she's telling Penny just a bit more because Penny's being used as an easel, and she says she doesn't mind because she always wanted to be an easel for a great artist. Minka thinks she needs to add something more, but she isn't quite sure. Sunil remarks on her color choice, saying he thought she was going to use ocean blue, but it's Caribbean azure. Vinny then stretches out his tongue to taste the paint, and he says it tastes like royal blue. Zoe says that eating paint is disgusting and dangerous. Vinny says it isn't, but then gags a little and says, okay, maybe it is. Minka then says she is finished, but she's not quite sure about it. She then turns it to the pets, and it's a rendering of the pets and Blythe in an interesting style. The pets comment on how hypnotic it is, and Minka asks if she made the eyes too small. And Russell says that the eyes are not too small. So for those of you who've been listening since the beginning, I have often said whenever a weird reference to something else pops up in the show, that it is not the weirdest reference this show has ever done. Allow me to introduce you to the weirdest reference this show has ever done. This is a reference to big eyes. It's weird in a lot of ways. Okay, the painting is stylized like a Big Eyes painting. And it is just weird. There is more to it, but let's start with why the whole reference is a little bit weird to begin with. It's a movie from only 2 years before the episode aired, based on real life events, and the movie itself is PG-13 and not a Marvel movie. I mean, some of the other references that this show has made, such as Star Trek or Hitchcock, that might go over a kid's head because they wouldn't exactly know until later. They might get it, they might understand it's a reference to something, but they wouldn't know what it was. And also, Star Trek and Hitchcock are also old. And even though Big Eyes is only 2 years before this episode aired, it's not a reference I don't think most kids are gonna get. And I don't know why they chose to do this. It's really weird. I don't think most kids are gonna get it. So Okay, after that, we go into the shop, and Mrs. Twombly is making change for someone. And they leave, but they leave their cup of coffee behind. And Mrs. Twombly is incensed that he didn't recycle. And she says that it could be a lot of things. She takes the lid off and makes a fez out of the cup. Blythe says that recycling is good, but maybe that's not the kind of thing you should recycle in that way. Blythe takes the cup, and Mrs. Twombly says, I can't make shoulder pads with just one cup, which is technically true. So the coffee has since spilled onto Mrs. Twombly's head, and she wonders if she didn't rinse her shampoo out this morning. She tastes it and says, I don't remember buying coffee-flavored shampoo. So Blythe is taking out the trash and passes by the dumpster and notices Minka's painting is in there. She gets the junk off of it and thinks it's amazing, even if it smells. She brings it in and walks it up to Minka, who is startled. Minka says she was thinking about talking bananas, and she was wondering if bananas could talk, would everything they say be appealing? Blythe says she wouldn't know, but she does have a question for Minka. Minka asks if it's about talking bananas. Blythe says no. Minka wanted it to be about that, but she says ask away anyway. So Blythe shows Minka the painting and asks if she knows anything about it and why it was in the trash, and Minka says she doesn't know. Blythe pressures her more, and Minka keeps denying anything. Blythe notices the paint on her paws, and Minka says that it's monkey shedding. She explains that once a year, monkeys shed the fur off their palms, and this is what it looks like underneath. True story. Blythe says that she would like to know because she wants to give the artist a hug, and due to that, Minka caves in and said it was her and accepts Blythe's hug. Blythe asks why she denied it in the first place, and Minka says she wanted to try something new but wasn't happy with the result. Blythe says she likes it. Minka says that art should inspire, and continues by saying that her usual style, avant monkey splatter paint core, inspires her. However, when she looks at this, she feels nothing. Blythe says she really likes it, and it's her favorite piece by her. She asks to keep it, and Minka reluctantly agrees, but on the condition she doesn't tell anyone who did it. Minka imagines what that might do to her image in the monkey art world. We then see a gallery full of different monkey art, and the different monkey artists showing it off. And then in comes Minka, who presents the Big Eyes art and is ridiculed harshly for it. In the real world, Minka starts crying, and Blythe thinks Minka might be overreacting, but Minka makes her promise not to tell anyone, and she agrees to it. Blythe arrives at school on her scooter with the painting. Youngmi and Sue come up to her and are impressed with the painting. The three have a slight conversation about it before Youngmi and Sue ask who the artist is. Blythe freaks out when remembering her promise to Minka. And also, why did she bring it to her school? I guess this would have come up at home as well, just not as quickly. Because, if she had it up in her room, Sue and Youngmi and Jasper, come up to her room regularly. And if they would see it and they would talk about it, it just wouldn't be as quick. This was an inevitable conversation, but I guess Blythe just pushed it up. It's just weird. So then Blythe weirds out herself and becomes fascinated with Youngmi's backpack, asking where she got it. Youngmi says, the store. You were there with me. And Blythe continues and asks about the material. And Youngmi says, backpack material? Blythe then decides to count the number of teeth on the zippers in more attempts to dodge answering the question. She loses count and jets off, and Youngmi and Sue remark on how weird that interaction was. Minka is painting a bowl of dog treats in a photorealistic way, at least for this universe, which, now that I'm saying it, does sound like that one thing Ricky was talking about back when I did that episode with him. And Russell compliments her, saying that it looks like a photograph. and these are his quotes, the standards in which all art should be judged, which, no. Just no, I don't. Art isn't about making things look as real as possible. Art is about invoking an emotion through different styles and mediums. It's not. The goal of art isn't to imitate life. It's to. It's not to completely imitate life, at least. It's supposed to, like, show someone else's concept of life. Art is weird, and it means a lot of different things to different people, which is kind of what this episode is about. Like, they later explain that, like, even though Minka doesn't like her art, everyone else really likes her art, and that's kind of the thing. But I just don't like when, like, supposedly, like, smart and hoity-toity characters, like, say things like that as if they are, superior or have a more refined or elegant taste, when no, you just have a different taste than everyone else. It's just, like, your taste might seem more classically classical, but, like, it's not the right thing, because there is no one right way to enjoy art. It's weird. Like, this is also kind of a problem I have in, like, Brooklyn Nine-Nine as well, with, like, Captain Holt. Some of his dialogue, like Captain Holt is, like, more classy and refined, and I don't know, but something about, like, some of the lines he says about classical music or stuff like that, just, like, I don't know, make him seem like kind of a tool, in my opinion. Just about that. It's weird. So back to the episode. Minka is frustrated with it and saying she feels nothing. Russell says that this isn't nothing, and then Minka vents her style frustrations on Russell, saying she wants to try a new style, but it leaves her feeling nothing. She then lists off things that she does feel things about. Anger, pain, the smell of soap off of mountaintops, raindrops on a day where the temperature is just above freezing. She says that those are feelings and this is nothing, and then Russell sarcastically agrees to that. Penny suggests doing multiple styles, which can only mean one thing: montage, the first montage of the episode. So Minka does a Greco-Roman style painting of Vinny and Sneal fighting over food, which she doesn't like. A Dolly's melting clocks, but with Zoe's face instead of the clocks, which she also doesn't like. A fantasy setting thing where Russell is a knight and Pepper is like a dragon, which she also doesn't like. The Screamer with Penny Ling, which she also doesn't like. And an abstract piece with everyone in it, and she doesn't like that one either. She rips up the fantasy one, and they tape it together later. Like, she really doesn't like them. So Blythe hangs the painting up in her locker. She tells young me and Sue how it brings her locker together. Possible Big Lebowski reference, still doesn't top the Big Eyes reference, because, like, the Big Lebowski is, like, almost 20 years old when this episode aired. It was 18 years old, so it can be, like, old enough to, like, seem new. Like, okay, kids are going to, like, at least see the Big Eyes movie poster when they go through, like, the DVD section at Walmart. or whatever. So that they're gonna notice this. They're not gonna notice a line reference. This is just a weird reference, and it's gonna get a little weirder. So Sue then asks again who painted it, and Blythe doesn't say anything. And then Josh comes by and compliments the painting. Blythe says that she was just telling Sue and Youngmi how it brings your locker together. Josh then brings everyone in the vicinity together to look at the painting, and Blythe gets more nervous. Josh asks who was it by, and Sue says that she won't tell anyone. Josh says, "You'll tell me, right, Blythe?" And then Blythe gets lost in Josh's eyes, but then she freaks out and imagines Minka's head on Josh, telling her not to say it was her. So under this amount of pressure, Blythe says it was her. Sue says, "Why didn't you just say so?" And then Youngmi adds, "We can add awesome painter to the list of things you're amazing at." Josh says he can't believe it, and Blythe feels the same, saying, "I can't believe it either," and everyone walks off. So, for those saying I might have jumped the gun a little, or I'm stretching it, this is another thing that makes this an intentional Big Eyes reference or parody. It's not just the painting with big eyes, but also the fact that someone else takes credit for someone else's work. That is the whole thing of Big Eyes. Well, kind of. It's a lot more complicated than that. There's a whole lawsuit thing that happens, and the two people were married, and it is that just the fact that they have the big eyes and someone else taking credit for it. It's not much of a parody outside of that, which just makes it all the more weird to parody in the first place, though. It's a very specific parody, and it's more confusing by its lack of fully parodying it. Although, I mean, I guess for the Weekend at Bernie's parody, they don't I don't think they do everything like Weekend at Bernie's did, but it is more of a concept than a direct thing. It's just weird. And to make things even more complicated in the episode, the Biskits show up and saying that Blythe is the worst. However, that painting isn't. Whitney says she likes it, and then Brittany says she loves it. And they want their own, here we go, one-of-a-kind giant eye portrait, which they agree is a mouthful, so they abbreviate it to OOAKGEP. And they think that they can give it to Grand Lorraine to replace the blurry photo that she has of them now. Whitney says that there's only one not-so-small problem with this idea, and it's that they're going to have to talk to Blythe. So the other indicator that this parody is very intentional is that they go out of their way to not say big in any context. They could have said there's one big problem, or they keep saying that the eyes are not small and that the eyes are giant. It's weird. This is a weird thing to parody. I don't get it. Why did they do this? I'm not saying it's bad. I enjoy this episode, but it is weird that they would do this in the first place. So the rest of the pets have hung up Minka's paintings, including the one they tape back together, and really like them. Minka is still furious with them and says if she hears another person compliment her works from today, she's gonna blow her monkey top. Blythe walks in and says that everyone loved her painting. Minka is about to blow, and Blythe says she didn't tell anyone that Minka painted it. Blythe then admits to saying that she painted it, which Minka thinks is worse. Blythe then notices the rest of the works, compliments him, and Minka's monkey top explodes. Blythe runs out of the play area and into the Biskits. She asks if they're in the wrong store. They say they are, but they're only here because they need something from her. Which, classic Biskit line, which they say that they need an OOAKGEP. Blythe is confused at first, but when they explain it, she gets it. Blythe surmises that they came to her because she painted hers and they want one. She said she'd like to, but is too busy. So, the Biskits pull out checkbooks, and Blythe wonders what they are. The Biskits explain that it's Daddy's paper credit card or something, and the three of them comment on how weird that is. I don't know how I feel about that. They're just checkbooks. It's not like you haven't seen a check before. I'm pretty sure Blythe got a check. Yeah, no, she's gotten several checks when she was organizing the Pet Fest, and also saw a bigger check for the fundraiser aspect of it. It's It's weird. So, the Biskits then take out a golden credit card and ask Blythe to name her price. Blythe says no. They offer a car. Blythe says she can't drive. They offer 7 cards. Blythe says she still can't drive. They offer a solid gold piano that's out of tune and really heavy. Blythe says no to that as well. They offer Francois, and Blythe says, you can't give me a person. And the Biskits say, we can't? Okay, so I've always had a weird problem with this line. It is like a weird bit of dark comedy for this show. Because that, like, giving someone a person is essentially slavery. And especially in the States, that is a very, very bad thing to say the least, on the severity of it. Like the fact that they don't know that this is wrong is immoral in and of itself. Especially since they live in America. Even though, like, the show is created in Canada, like, there's still, like, a fair knowledge base on, like, American slavery. And I'm assuming Canada's not entirely innocent of this whole thing as well. Like, I'm not saying they're, like, you know, worse than America when it comes to slavery. But they were part of the British Empire. And, you know, that they used slaves. And that's how slavery got to America. Like, slavery is a very complicated issue. Well, complicated in the nature of it. The moralistic standing of slavery is very simple in that it is bad, and ignorance of such thing is not good. Like, okay, to bring up something else, the reason I think this joke works in Archer when Archer treats Woodhouse poorly and is surprised to hear that he gets paid is because we know Archer is not a good person. Like, we know that about Archer. And in any other season, this might have been okay, but we're also in the middle of the Biskit redemption arc. Not only that, but the reason the Biskits are so persistent on getting this painting is because they're doing it for somebody else. They're genuinely doing a nice thing in this episode. And it's weird to see like that bit of immoralness just like creep out in this one instance. And whatever. So Blythe says that she won't do it under any circumstances, and the twins are disappointed that they can't replace Grand Lorraine's blurry photo. Blythe takes notice of this and agrees to do it because she likes Lorraine, as well as the Biskits refuse to move until she does so. So, off she goes. She says she has to get ready in the play area because that's where she does her work. The Biskits say it's fine, just make it quick. They feel weird standing around in a pet store. Blythe points out that their dad owns the biggest pet store in town, and they respond, "Don't remind me." Blythe panics. So Blythe is pleading with Minka, who says she won't do it. Blythe says, "Need I remind you that none of this would happen if you hadn't told me not to tell anyone?" And after no answer, she says, "Need I remind you? Because I'm reminding you." Minka says, "Yeah, but you didn't have to say it was you either." Blythe says that that's a good point. Blythe explains that you might not feel anything from it, but art affects everyone differently, and a lot of people find joy in your giant eye paintings. So Minka is like, "I hadn't thought of that," and agrees to do it. However, she points out the trouble of the Biskits thinking she did it, and Minka being a monkey, and Blythe says that she has a plan for that. So, meanwhile, the Biskits wonder what poses they should do, and then go into a pose montage in the store. So this is our second montage of the episode. Blythe then summons them to the play area with like a little like box stage and some stools on which to pose. They wonder what she's wearing, and she says it's an artist's smock. Minka sneezes underneath, and Blythe explains that it's an artist's sneeze. So the Biskits get into position, and Blythe calls upon her muses, which are the pets, to come up. She explains that they have to be here as well because they inspire her to do her art better. The Biskits reluctantly agree and say that artists are weird. So then she begins. So we get our third montage of the episode, like really close to the second montage of the episode. And it is a time-lapse of events that happen while Minka's painting, while Blythe tries to convince the Biskits that she is painting. So Minka's tail sticks out, but Vinny goes and makes it look like it's his tongue. Minka eats a banana, and Blythe mimes eating it. Blythe has Pepper distract the twins with her scents so that Blythe can get Minka some water. And then after some time, the Biskits run out of patience and say they've been here for 8 hours, while Blythe says it's only been 10 minutes. The Biskits demand to see the portrait and look at it. So it is an amalgamation of the different styles that Minka has gone over today. Blythe says that she has to feel her art and let her inspiration lead her, even if this is the result. Blythe points out that it is one of a kind, though, and she probably can't recreate it. The Biskits discuss among themselves that one-of-a-kind things are valuable, so they agree to take it and start to leave. They stop, however, and talk about how if Blythe were to paint more, then their painting would be less valuable. They come back into the play area and ask Blythe to sign a contract not to paint anymore. Blythe is like, "Do you carry contracts with you wherever you go?" And the Biskits are like, "We like to be prepared." So Blythe signs it, and the Biskits leave in victory, but Blythe also celebrates never having to go through that again legally, and also tricking the Biskits. She says she also learned her lesson about not stealing art, and Minka offers her paintings to Blythe and allows Blythe to tell them who painted them, because art is what other people make of it, I guess. But the other pets want to keep them. Blythe says that they aren't leaving, but Minka says it's okay because she'll just paint more, because she learned that art makes people happy. And then we see the Biskits follow through on their promise to replace the blurry photo with the painting they got and hug their Gram. So overall, this is a weird episode just based on the specific reference that they do. That's not even that much of a reference. It is enjoyable, don't get me wrong. It is a fun little episode, but I don't know. There's not really a lot to it outside of the few big things that I mentioned. It's the nature of this parody is odd, and with it comes the oddness of the episode. But even though it is odd, it's still good. And I guess that's all there is to it. I know this isn't much of an episode to come back to after over a month with no episode, but it is what it is. And like the episode says, art is what you make of it. Even though this isn't a long episode, I still hope you enjoy it all the same. Although I know now for a fact that not everyone will, because since I've been gone, I got a iTunes review that wasn't from me, and they gave it 1 star, saying that it's dull and not exciting, but they know I can improve, and they wish me good luck, great work, and confidence. So that, I guess, art really is what you make of it, because they made that into a 1 star review, even though it sounds like they sort of like it in a way, or at least they know it can be better. I don't know. It's weird, much like this episode. But that will be it for this episode of the Littlest PetCast. Be sure to leave your comments and reviews on Shout Engine, on Apple Podcasts, on the Google Play Store, and wherever else RSS feeds go. When they decide that a 2014 PG-13 movie is a good thing to reference in a kids' TV show. And be sure to tune in for the next episode, whenever that is. Bake it till you make it, and I will see you then.